Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So the Social Security increase started going out last month in December, on December 29th for those on SSI. Then of course we have more payments going out next week on January 10th, which is a Wednesday. However, according to recent polling so far, it's just not living up to expectations, so we'll be going over that. Plus, Donald Trump's attorney is saying that Trump is very concerned about an upcoming ruling by the Supreme Court. We'll be going over that as well. And could Nikki Haley potentially be an even better candidate than Trump? We're going to be looking into that as well. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm. And also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so we're going to dive into today's video with some more news involving Donald Trump and of course the recent fiasco with states kicking him off the ballot. Specifically, both Colorado and Maine have been successful in doing so. Now, this is going to be escalated up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to rule on their decision. The Supreme Court is going to say yes or no whether or not those states had it in their right to kick Trump off the ballot due to the 14th Amendment and calling Trump basically an insurrectionist. So, according to The Hill here, former President Trump's attorney, Lena Habba, on Wednesday said the former president is concerned with the U.S. Supreme Court justices may, quote, shy away from being pro-Trump and rule against him in regard to the recent decision in Colorado and Maine that kicked him off the state's 2024 primary ballots. Responding to the New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman's recent comments about Trump's concerns, Habba said in an interview on Fox News, she said, quote, that's a concern he's voiced to me. He's voiced to everybody publicly, not privately. And I can tell you that his concern is a valid one. She said, you know, Republicans are conservative. They get nervous. They unfortunately sometimes shy away from being pro-Trump because they feel that even if the law is on our side, they are swayed much like the Democratic side, right? So they're trying so hard to look neutral that sometimes they make the wrong call. Colorado and Maine both removed Trump from their 2024 state primary ballots last month, ruling that he is ineligible to run for president under the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. So obviously, you know, even Trump is quite nervous, as confident as he can be at times, that the Supreme Court might actually rule against him, even though he actually, 3 of the judges in the Supreme Court were put there by Trump himself. They might actually be looking at this ruling and be so afraid of being seen as maybe biased in the situation that they might actually rule against Trump in this case. And what could potentially happen if the Supreme Court rules against him in the states of Colorado and Maine? Well, then we have a handful of other states who are looking to also remove him from the ballot as well. And if all those other states also remove him from the ballot, then even though he's leading in the polling over every other Republican candidate and also over Biden, he's pretty much going to have no chance of actually winning. So this would be a huge win for the left if they do indeed kick Trump off the ballot. But again, we're going to have to wait and see. Are they going to rule in favor of him in the Supreme Court, or are they going to rule against him? Now, could potentially another Republican actually be an even better candidate for the Republican Party? According to recent polling, it looks like it might just be the case where Nikki Haley actually does just a little bit better than Trump does against Joe Biden. So let's go ahead and examine these numbers. So first off, we're going to look at Trump versus Biden in this hypothetical matchup. And you can see on average here, Trump leads in the polling by right around 2.2 points. Now we can see Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden. In this one, Nikki Haley actually leads Biden by 3.3 points. So head to head, Nikki Haley actually does just a little bit better than Trump does against Joe Biden. But I guess for Nikki Haley, the thing is, at the end of the day, she really has no chance at winning the Republican nomination, because you look at the polling numbers up here for the Republican presidential nomination, and on average, Trump is leading by a whopping 51.7 points. And even if we have all these other candidates drop out of the race, if we have Ron DeSantis drop out of the race, if we have Chris Christie drop out of the race, if we have Vivek Ramaswamy drop out of the race, Asa Hutchinson, if all those drop out of the race and all of them happen to change their vote over to Nikki Haley, even if that happens to be the case, Trump still wins by a landslide. We're basically going to have to depend on the Trump voters, people who are voting for Trump now, to then switch their vote over to Nikki Haley, something I really can't see happening. So really the only chance for Trump to not win the Republican nomination at this point in time is if the Supreme Court rules against him in their decision, and he basically gets kicked off of Maine's ballot, Colorado's ballot, and a handful of other states as well. But we'll definitely have to keep our eyes and ears peeled for that. But in some other news, of course, we did have that Social Security increase. The first one went out last month on December 29th for those receiving SSI. That's actually going to be their January 2024 payment. So if you do receive SSI, you're not going to receive your next payment until February 1st. Then, of course, for everyone else, we have payments going out to retirees and those on disability next week on January 10th. But so far, even with this increase at 3.2%, most people, according to polling, is saying that it's just not living up to expectations, as the rising costs have been much higher than the cost of living adjustment. So according to EBM, as the new year begins, retirees are getting a boost to their Social Security checks, but new data shows it's not nearly enough to keep up with this year's prices. The 2024 cost of living adjustment for Social Security, which kicks in this month, is an additional 3.2%. But according to new research from the Senior Citizens League, 2/3 of American retirees have seen their expenses rise by right around 10% since December 2023, more than 3 times the COLA. And you can see up on the screen here, this is the following list of 10 categories with the highest inflation that seniors are trying to cope with during the holidays. So we can see motor vehicle insurance. In the United States, you basically need a car to get around. Public transportation really isn't all that great. And insurance for cars has gone up by 19.20% on average. Admission to sporting events, not necessarily something that you have to attend, but if you like sports, sure, getting out and enjoying a football game, basketball game, or a baseball game sure would be a great way for to spend some time on entertainment. Those prices have gone up by 16.40%. Motor vehicle repair, once again, we all need cars. If you have to repair your vehicle, those prices have gone up by close to 13%. Beef roast have gone up by 12.50%. Rent has gone up by 6.90%. So if you do not own your own house and you're forced to rent, you're paying more for rent every single year than what you're receiving for your cost of living adjustment. So obviously, this is quite problematic. And even though the average retiree is receiving right around $50 on average this year as opposed to last year, the prices have just gone up, probably more than the $50. So to have this extra $50, sure, it's great, but pretty much at the end of the day, you're going to be spending the extra $50, whether that's on groceries, fixing your car, just insuring your car, everything else. So I ask you, and leave your thoughts in comments below, is the 3.2% cost of living adjustment that you're receiving this year in 2024, is that really going to be all that helpful? I mean, sure, it's better than nothing, but is it going to actually put you ahead, or do you just feel like you're falling further and further behind? Now, not to mention the Medicare Part B premiums are also going to be increasing this year by close to $10. So that's going to take out a lot of the increase that you're going to be receiving, which quite frankly is unfortunate. Really, something needs to be done about Social Security. Again, in 10 years, the program is going to be going insolvent anyways. But what we're receiving right now is just not enough to get by. But again, leave your thoughts in comments below on this entire situation. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.